From the conscious to the unconscious, I'm talking human mating rituals. Why we do what we do, even when we don't know what we're doing, or even why we behave the way we do when we're seeking out a biological mate. And so I had no clue what I was getting into when I started looking into the mating rituals of the human species. And all I got left to say is, there's a lot to learn about how and why you choose your mate. And if you haven't chosen one yet, this video should help. That is, unless you've gone so far that the only mate you'll ever have is a blow-up doll with artificial intelligence, which might not have been a bad idea for me back in the day, but I ain't going there. Now, if you're wondering exactly the kind of things that mating rituals include, they run the gamut, from nonverbal signals in a sort of mating. Yeah, and a sort of mating is when you're attracted to someone who looks and thinks like you do, as well as taking a look at cultural variations, and we'll be discussing a lot of it in just a bit. But first, if I were to sit down and define mating rituals, I guess I'd Google it first. And yeah, I did. And this is what I'm talking about. The behaviors, customs, and processes you go through to find a loved one. And no, I ain't going to be talking about love at first sight, because that only happens to the lucky ones, and we both know we ain't part of that group. And now fuck me, but know this. This is no easy, simple stuff to understand, because human behavior is just complicated, especially when you start reading about the history of mating. But to make it simple for you, back in the day before we all got civilized, we humans, well, we were a promiscuous bunch. So much so that our promiscuity didn't end until we started to settle down and grow food. But of course, that is the easy answer. It is believed that with the arrival of agriculture is a time when humans started the process of selective mating. So to make a long story short, we were all fucking like rabbits till we started to grow our own food, and that's when groups of people having a lot of sex dropped to just a few, and then eventually to only you and your spouse. Now that we got the history of how couples came to be, let's take a minute and muse on the variety of mating customs that our species has come up with. And yeah, they are mostly for the pleasure of men. Of course, we all know what monogamy is, a bonding between two individuals. Polygamy, of course, is someone having more than one spouse, and if it's a woman with several husbands, the name we give it is polyandry. And yeah, polyandry still exists in places like the Himalayas, India, Nepal, South America, and Polynesia, all having documented histories of women ruling the roost. In a man who has more than a single wife, we call that polygamy, and it exists not only here in the U.S., but in West and Central Africa and a couple other places as well. Of course, the term for casual sex is short-term mating, and so in case you've ever been accused of it, extra-pair mating refers to cheating on your spouse. Now, a minute or two back, I said we could talk about nonverbal mating rituals, and it is that time. When it comes to showing interest in another without speaking a word to the person, well, there's the eyebrow flash, which is a quick unconscious raising of your eyebrows, signaling you'd like to engage in a social interaction, which, so ain't necessarily mean someone wants to fuck you, but does mean they'd like to at least be your friends. In fact, there's a whole shitload of ways we communicate non-verbally, from preening and positioning cues to one we all know, women wearing makeup. Finally, I'd like to finish this fun little video up with cultural mating rituals. And it doesn't matter if you're a Native American, Amish, or European, because yeah, your family history plays a part. From the Amish, who like to offer up a lot of parental oversight, to elaborate dances of Native Americans, to arranged marriages. The differences in how we approach a human mating ritual is varied, and your religion makes it more so. Be it a Jewish purity ritual or a Christian virginity proof, and even Islam gets in on the act by encouraging one to marry within their religion. And Hindus get in on the marriage ritual with a bunch of pre-marriage ceremonies, and by a bunch, I mean a shitload of celebration. Yeah, my friends, human mating rituals are all over the place and have been since the dawn of time. And that's as it should be, because like any peacock knows, if you want to attract the best, you gotta flaunt what you got. Yes, my friends, why we do what we do as human beings, especially when we're looking for a mate. I'm not going there. Except I did go there. And it was a fun video to do. I enjoyed it. Like always, that's why I do my videos. I have questions and I learn shit. I learned a little bit of shit about like this one. I mean, yeah. What more do you people want from me? I don't know. I don't know what I want from myself. But like I said, this was an interesting video to do because uh, one of the most interesting things that I think I learned was that we used to be a really promiscuous species, which kind of makes sense, and a lot of us still are. Some of us not so much, especially as we get old. I'm just saying that. Anyway, once again, thank you for watching. Give a like, leave a comment. Let me know how you found your mate, and we'll call it a day. Oh,